Hello. Today we shall be reading Lesson 5 from the Class 9 book Bliss. The title of the lesson, All Summer in a Day. The writer, Ray Douglas Bradbury. A little bit about the writer. Ray Douglas Bradbury 1920-2012 was one of the most celebrated American fiction writers of the 20th century. He wrote science fiction, fantasy, horror, and mystery stories. His most famous stories are Fahrenheit 451, The Martian Chronicles, The Illustrated Man, and It Came from Outer Space. Many of his works have been adapted into comic books, television shows, and films. The present text is an adaptation from the short story All Summer in a Day. Here, the writer gives us an imaginary account of life on the planet Venus. It touchingly narrates the keen expectations of the children of Venus, who eagerly wait for the sun to appear after 7 years, but only for an hour. The deviation of the text from what we know as scientific fact only adds to the imaginative element of the tale. I'd like to let the listeners know that this story has been shortened and a part of the plot is missing from this story that we're going to be reading today. Still, I'd like to let you know what the original story was also like. So in the original, the story is set on the planet Venus, where the sun shines for only 2 hours, once every 7 years. It opens on the day that the sun is due to make its appearance once again. Margaret and other children in her school on Venus are 9 years old. Margaret came from Earth to Venus 5 years ago. Therefore, she accurately recalls the sun and the way it looked and felt as it shone on her when she was back home in Ohio. However, this is not the case with the other children. They were far too young to remember what the sun was like when last it shone on them. They can only imagine the warmness of the sun upon their arms and legs. Margaret tells the others that the sun is round like a penny and hot like a fire in the stove. The other children accuse her of lying, and they show their resentment of her seeming superiority by locking her in a closet. When the Venus rains finally stop and the sun comes out, it sends a flaming bronze color throughout the jungle growth. The children soak up the life-giving sunshine until the rains start to fall again. The children know now that Margaret was telling the truth about the sun. Then and only then do they remember that Margaret is still locked in the closet. Prior to the sun's appearance, the children are described as being so pale that they are almost colorless. The rain has washed the yellow from their hair, the blue from their eyes, and the red from their lips. The good qualities in their personalities have also seemingly been washed away because the children are quick-tempered and spiteful. That they are cruel by locking Margaret in a closet never occurs to them. The sun, however, depicts a restoration for the children. It gives color to their washed-out appearance, and it also enables them to possess new encouragement, strength, and wholeness in their lives. Finally, the children remember Margaret, but for her it is too late. She must wait 7 years to see the sun again. It had been raining for 7 years. Thousands upon thousands of days filled from one end to the other with rain. The days were filled with the gush of water and endless showers. Heavy storms caused tidal waves to come over the islands. 1,000 forests crushed under the rain had grown up 1,000 times to be crushed again. This was the way of life forever on planet Venus. Here was located the schoolroom of the children belonging to men and women who came by rockets from Earth. They set up a civilization in this raining world. Ready? Ready. Now? Soon. Will it happen today? Will it? Look, look, see for yourself. The children in the schoolroom chattered and pressed to each other like so many roses. They peered out of the window to look at the hidden sun. It rained. It's stopping! It's stopping! The children were all 9 years old. When the sun came out last time, 7 years ago, they were too young. They could not recall the sun when it came out for just an hour and showed its face to the stunned world. All yesterday they had read in class about the sun. They learned how like a lemon it was and how hot. They had written small stories, essays or poems about it. I think the sun is a flower that blooms for just 1 hour. That was yesterday. Today, at this moment, the rain was slackening. The children gathered at the great thick windows. Where's our teacher? She'll be back. She must hurry or she'll miss it. The rain slackened still more. The children were eager to see the sun. They had been on Venus all their lives. They had been only 2 years old when the sun last came out. They had long since forgotten the color and the heat of how it really was. They played in the echoing tunnels of the underground city and sang of summer and the sun. The rain stopped. It was as if a hurricane had lost its sound. There were no motions or tremor, but peace. The world grounded to a standstill. The silence was so immense, one would feel as if the ears had been stuffed. The children put their hands to their ears. They stood apart. The doors slid back. The smell of the silent, waiting world came to them. The sun came out. It was the color of flaming bronze, and it was very large. The sky around it was blazing blue. The jungle burned with sunlight. The children, released from their spell, rushed out, yelling into the summertime. "Now, don't you go too far," their teacher called after them. "You've only 1 hour, you know." The children were running and turning up their faces to the sky to feel the warm sun on their cheeks. They took off their jackets and let the sun warm their arms. "Oh, it's better than lamplights, isn't it? Much, much better." They stopped running and stood in the great jungle that covered Venus. The jungle grew and never stopped growing. The jungle had spent years without the sun. It was the color of rubber, ash, and ink. The children lay out, laughing on the jungle mattress. They ran among the trees. They slipped and fell. They pushed each other and played hide and seek. Most of all, they squinted at the sun until tears ran down their faces. They breathed the fresh air and listened to the silence which held them in a blessed sea of no sound. They looked at everything and savored everything. Then, wildly, like animals escaped from their caves, they ran and ran, shouting in circles. They ran for an hour and did not stop running. And then, in the midst of their running, one of the girls wailed. Everyone stopped. The girl, standing in the open, held out her hand. "Oh, look, look," she said, trembling. The children gathered slowly to look at her opened palm. In the center of it was a single large raindrop. The girl began to cry, looking at it. The children glanced quickly at the sky. A few cold drops fell on their noses and their cheeks and their mouths. The sun faded behind a cloud of mist. A cool wind blew around them. They turned and slowly walked towards their underground houses. Their smiles had vanished. A boom of thunder startled them. They tumbled upon each other and ran. "Oh, oh!" Lightning struck all around them. The sky darkened into midnight in a flash. The children stood at the doorway to the underground houses until it was raining hard. Then they closed the doors and heard the gigantic sound of the rain falling everywhere. Will it be 7 more years before the sun comes out again? Yes. With pale faces, they looked out of the window at the world that was raining now, raining and raining steadily.